Hi everybody, we're going to be doing IXL. We're still in the linear functions section. This is section S, and I'm going to do S5, which is finding a missing coordinate if you're given the slope. So probably we're going to be using the slope formula, substituting, simplifying, solving. So here it is, finding a coordinate using the slope. So the line passes through the 2 points, and we want to find the value of C if it has a slope of 1. So basically what we're doing is we're using the slope formula, which says, the slope of a line is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. There are 2 different x's and 2 different y's. And it's very important that you get the difference in the y's in the numerator and the difference of the x's in the denominator. Now this first one, I'm going to do it fairly slowly. I always tell my students that they need a diagram. In this particular case, I'm not going to do the diagram, but I am going to write the formula. Then we're going to substitute, simplify, and then solve. So we substitute. I know m is 1. Now, normally I put it inside parentheses, but it's all by itself, so it's good to go. Y2, and it doesn't matter which one you put as Y1 and X1, Y1, X2, Y2. These are 2 different points, and because my variable is in this one over here, I'm going to call that one point 2, but it doesn't matter. It'll work either way. It's just going to be a lot easier in the long run if you choose C minus 9 in that order. So I'm going to substitute for Y2, which is C. Y1 is negative 9. And you'll notice that I put parentheses around it. It's important because there's that double negative. It's going to give you trouble. And in the denominator, we have 5. It's important that you go in order, minus negative 6. Now, I'm not going to be doing this substitution in all the rest of the examples. My normal methodology would be to use the arrows, and I'll show that one in the next set. Well, that gives us 1 equals. Now I'm doing the simplification step. I'm not going to put it down here. Normally I'd put it down, but I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little more space. Now the C minus negative 9 is really C plus 9, isn't it? And that is over 5 plus 6, which is 11. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 11 on both sides. Some people are going to think of this as cross multiplying. Either way works. A lot of times you're going to get a fraction for your slope, and so we'll do the cross multiplying in that point. This one, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 11 on both sides. And the 11s cancel and give me 1s. And the C plus 9 is still there. And I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides, of course. And C is equal to 2. Notice I have a formula. There it is. I substituted, I simplified, and then I solved. So C is equal to 2. Again, we've got a 9. Now this time what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that my variable comes first. Now it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to subtract it in this order for that reason. I'm going to subtract my y's and then subtract my x's. Now I like using the arrows. Basically what I'm doing is I'm using this one is going to be x2, y2, and this one is going to be x1, y1, and I'm going to use the formula. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that just this one last time. So this again, I'm going to use this one as x2, y2. And as I've said before, it doesn't matter which one you choose is which one, y1. So I'm going to go in that order. All right, so here we go. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Some people may be tempted to try to put the x's in the numerator because they've got the variable there. Now we have to substitute inside parentheses in general. M is by itself, so I'm just going to write the 9. I've got y2, which is negative 3, minus y1, which is the 6, over x2, which is the a, minus x1, which is the negative 9. And we get 9 is equal to, I'm simplifying, negative 9 over a plus 9. It's a 9, sorry, kind of a funky looking 9 there. A plus 9. Now, a lot of people are going to want to multiply by a plus 9 on both sides, but I think a better option is to just think of this as a proportion, and we're going to cross multiply. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 9 times the entire denominator, a plus 9, and I'm going to take the negative 9 times the 1. Negative 9 is equal to 9 times a plus 9. Now, if you haven't seen videos on the 2-step and 3-step problem solving, or the more complicated ones, the best way to solve an equation is to do the opposite to both sides in reverse order. Well, the last thing we did to a is we multiplied by 9. So my first step is to divide by 9. Now, a lot of people are going to just automatically start distributing the 9, and it'll work. It's just this is a shorter version. 9 divided by 9 is 1, and I have negative 1 is equal to a plus 9, and we're almost done. We have to subtract 9 from both sides, and I'm going to just put it right here, minus 9. So a is equal to negative 10, and then we're done. I'll have lots of other examples to do, so hopefully this one wasn't too complicated for you. Looks like we're moving right along here. All right, so I want to use this one as my starting point. So I'm going to go negative 4 minus negative 10. It's not wrong to do it the other way, and you could. It's just that you are going to end up with an extra step because you're going to have a negative t if you go the other direction. And then I'm going to take t minus 3. Hopefully you've seen the slope formula, the one where I find the slope given 2 points. So m is equal to, which is negative 1, is equal to negative 4 minus negative 10, which is 6. I'll write it out this one time, and then the next time I won't. And in the denominator, we have t minus 3. Again, I'm going to go ahead and put this over 1. I could, if I wanted to, multiply by t minus 3 inside parentheses, or cross multiply, whichever makes more sense to you. You know what I think I'll do this time? I'm going to go ahead and leave this as just a number like that. I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by t minus 3, just to show you what happens. Now, I am going to do some simplifying in a bit. And the t minus 3 cancels the t minus 3. And over here, we've got 10 minus 4, which is 6. And over here, we have t minus 3 is being multiplied by negative 1. So I have a negative t plus 3 if I were to distribute the negative 1. But like I said before, to make it easier for yourself, since I have negative 1 times t minus 3, the more direct method for this is to divide both sides by negative 1. And I'm going to go ahead and write it for you. And we end up with 1t minus 3 is equal to negative 6. And we're going to add 3 to both sides, and we're done. We add 3 to both sides, and you get t is equal to negative 3. I just added 3. That gives me 0 over here, and I get t equals negative 3. Now this one, I'm gonna skip some, seem to skip some steps. It's not a big deal, but I'm just gonna slowly make it less and less complex. So I'm going to subtract my y's. I want the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. What's really important is if you're gonna use the arrow method like I'm showing you to do my subtractions, you need to make sure that you start with the y's on top. The slope is equal to the change in y, which is u plus 4. Notice that I had a double negative there. If you need to write it all out, please do. And if you don't know what 6 minus 8 is, write it out. You know, hopefully you're not going to use a calculator. Now I'm going to make this easy on myself. I'm going to multiply both sides by -2, and I'm going to get +4 is equal to u plus 4. And then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Don't be afraid. It's okay. It's just 0. Don't be afraid of that 0. It's all right. U is equal to 0. All right, we're going to start by going this direction, and I'm going to write my slope first. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that they stuck that negative out in front of, more or less in front of the division line. That's fairly common. My recommendation is that you always write your negative in your numerator. It just makes life a lot easier. So instead of writing this, which is the way it's written in a lot of textbooks because of the way they typeset the books, I don't like that. I would prefer to write it as -1/3, which is the same thing. It doesn't matter. It's just I like it better. So -1/3 is equal to, that's my slope, and it's going to be the change in y, which is -2 plus 1, which is -1, over a minus 5. Now, a couple of things you could do. You could cross multiply, distribute, do all those things, which is what I probably want to do here. Whenever you have proportions, this is called a proportion, when you have a fraction equal to a fraction or a ratio equal to a ratio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to get -3 is equal to -1 times the whole thing. Remember that this whole thing is inside parentheses because of this division line. So when I distribute the -1, I get -a plus 5. Now, some people would rather leave the negative outside and then divide it on both sides. Either way, it's going to work. It's going to be the same amount of work either way. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5 from both sides. And I'm going to get -8 is equal to -a. And I'm going to divide by the -1. In IXL, they actually multiply both sides by -1. Either one is correct. The reason I tend to divide is because it's pretty clear that that -a means -1a, and we usually divide by the coefficient. It just happens that if you multiply by -1, it also gives you 1a. But I'm going to go ahead and divide by -1. It's the same thing, and I get a equals 8, or 8 equals a. And let's see, we have a -1/8. It's going to go in the numerator, just like I said before, and it's going to be equal to the change in y, which is 1 over the change in x, which is f plus 2. And this time I'm going to go ahead and do it the other way. I'm going to multiply the 1 times the 8 and get the 8. And this time I'm going to leave the -1 outside, f plus 1. Sorry, f plus 2. And I have a couple of choices. I could still distribute the -1, or I could multiply by, divide by -1 on both sides. I could actually multiply, but I'm not going to do that. That's going to be -8 is equal to f plus 2. And we're almost done. We have to subtract 2 on both sides. Hopefully you won't make a mistake and get f is equal to -10. And we're done. And this time I have 1/5 as my slope is equal to the change in y. 7 minus 6 is 1. And h minus -9 is h plus 9. We cross multiply and we're almost done already. 5 is equal to h plus 9. And we're going to subtract 9 from both sides, and I'm going to get h is equal to -4. And we're all done. Just in case you did happen to go the other direction, I just want to show you that it doesn't really matter. I'll do it really quick, I promise. That's 6 minus 7. I'm going to do the 1/5 is equal to 6 minus 7 is -1, and -9 minus h. I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to get -5 is equal to -9 minus h. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I'm going to get 4 is equal to negative h. I'm going to divide by negative 1. I'm going to get h equals negative 4. It doesn't matter which way you go. The reason I usually like to start with the point, or call the point 2, the one with the variable, is so that the variable doesn't have a negative on it. Doesn't matter though, it's still negative 4. And we have 1/6, passes through our 2 points. Again, I'm going to go this direction, q plus 4. Yes, I know it's minus a negative 4, it's the same thing. And 10 minus negative 8 is 18. Yeah, you could write it out if you want to. Cross multiply if you like. That's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and leave the 6 on the outside. You could just as easily distribute it first, doesn't matter. I just happen to like the fact that the 6 is divisible on both sides. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. I'll go ahead and write it. I get q plus 4 is equal to 3. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides and get q equals negative 1. And I'm sure you guys don't want to spend forever on these, so I'm going to move right along. In this one, we're going to have negative 1/9. Again, I like to write it in the numerator. And I've got t minus 9 in the numerator. That's my difference in my y's over the difference in the x's. Negative 1 minus negative 10 is 9. And we're going to cross multiply. I could simply ignore the denominators, which is a common technique when you have common denominators on both sides, which means the numerators have to be equal. Obviously, I can just simply write negative 1 equals t minus 9 and be done with it. Notice I'm going to get there eventually, but just to kind of see things a little bit. Can everybody see that this is a numerator and this is a numerator, and they have common denominators? So obviously, the numerators have to be equal to one another. Just a little shortcut there. If you wanted to, you could, of course, write 9 times t minus 9 is equal to negative 9. And then you're going to divide by negative 9 on, divide by 9 on both sides. You get t minus 9 is equal to negative 1. But of course, it was a lot more direct to do it this way. Add the 9 to both sides, and we get t is equal to 8. And we're getting there. Oh yeah, coming along. All right, so I'm going to go with 8 minus 0 is, sorry, I'm going to write my slope first. Where's my slope? Oh, undefined slope. Well, that tells me something. It doesn't matter what the numerator is, so long as the denominator is equal to 0, I will have an undefined slope. Now, a lot of people are going to get really confused about this. Basically, the undefined slope, and I'm just going to write it like this. I can write any number over 0. I'm just going to put 1 over 0. But I could write any number over 0 is equal to 8 minus 0 is 8. And t plus 4 is in the denominator. Now, the thing is, I could have written any number I choose on the numerator, and I'm going to write 8 for a reason. I hope you see why I decided to choose 8. The only thing that's important for an undefined slope is that the denominator, that would be the difference in the x's, is 0. And if you look at this, t plus 4 has to be equal to 0, doesn't it? I could cross multiply and divide and yada, 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 but t plus 4 is 0, then t must be negative 4. That would give me a denominator of 0 for my slope. So negative 4. I did not expect to see that one, so it was a really good one to include. We have a negative 10 over 7. And it looks like I'm going to go in this direction. That's going to be negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10. And we got a t minus 3. Oh, now I'm going to use the opposite trick. Notice if my numerators are the same, my denominators also have to be the same. So clearly t has to be 10, doesn't it? I'm doing it in my head. I'm just saying 7 equals t minus 3. Of course, t has to be 10 in order for that to happen, doesn't it? Why not? I'll use my trick, 10. All right, we're going to go with undefined slope again. So let's start with our point. So 7 plus 6 is going to be 13 over w plus 5 has to be undefined. Undefined slope is when you divide by 0. I could get into the reason and everything for it, but maybe I'll do that another time. So 0, it doesn't matter what the numerator is, so I'm going to choose 13 for an obvious reason. Then I can see that w is negative 5. We've got a slope of negative 5 over 7, and we are going to subtract in this direction so that I get negative 2 plus 7 is 5, and z minus 8 in the denominator. Could I change the signs? Yes, I could. If I wanted to use my trick, I could put the negative in the denominator, and I would have equal numerators, wouldn't I? Or I could cross multiply. It doesn't matter. Let's use my trick. I'm going to put the negative in the denominator instead of in the numerator. It's still the same fraction. Negative, the trick I'm using is this. Negative 5 over 7 is the same as negative 5 over 7, which happens to be the same as positive 5 over negative 7, which is what I did there. Now notice that I have equal numerators, so I must have equal denominators. So if negative 7 equals z minus 8, I can add 8 to both sides, and z is equal to 1. And of course, you can always go back and see how to do it using cross multiplying and yada, yada, yada. We might only have one left. So let's go ahead and do the undefined slope again. I'm going to go ahead and subtract my y's. That's going to be negative 2 over s minus 1. Undefined slope means I have it over 0. And remember, doesn't matter what the numerator says. Clearly, s is 1, isn't it? Now, I guess I could show you that it doesn't matter what number I choose up here. Let me show you what I mean. Oops. There we go. Suppose I didn't know the trick or something, and I just wanted to put a 1 every time. I want to have an undefined slope is always 1 over 0. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to get s minus 1 is equal to negative 2 times 0, which is 0. And then I'm going to add 1 to both sides. S equals 1. So either way. This may be my last one. Let's see. And it is. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and you'll try it yourself. See you next time. Bye.